Welcome back to Let's Do Lunch. I hope you all had a pleasant long weekend. We sure did here in Los Angeles. Last week, as you all know, we took a break from Let's Do Lunch to host our first virtual conference, LA Games Conference Select, and we had a fantastic week with 11 sessions, close to 1,000 registered attendees over the 3 days. I'm sure some of you were able to catch it, and we are now making plans for our next virtual conference. This is our 42nd episode of Let's Do Lunch, and it's Tuesday, but we will be doing Business of Streaming today, which is usually our Monday show. And of course, Colin Dixon from Endscreen Media is here to host our panel. Hey, Colin. Colin, who's our guest today?
Well, today we're really fortunate because I was able to snag Jason Friedlander. And Jason is the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Media Platforms for Verizon Media. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation.
Terrific. Well, I'll let you take it away. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Jason, would you like to join us? Welcome, Jason. Now, before we get started with the discussion, I just want to say, please take a moment to introduce yourself on the chat window. Let everybody know you're there. Let everybody know what you do. And I just want to remind you, do not enter questions on the chat window. I will not see them. Please enter them on the Q&A window. And if you do, I'll try and insert them into my conversation with Jason, but we'll definitely dedicate 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes at the end of the conversation. But I tell you, as my former interviewees will tell you, I do use your questions, so you can help direct the conversation a little bit if you put your questions in there, and I get a chance to insert them. Okay, so as I said, this is Jason Friedlander. Jason is the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Media Platforms for Verizon Media. And the reason I asked Jason on today is, well, perhaps, Jason, why don't you tell everybody what Verizon Media does? And I think it will become apparent why I asked you on.
Hey, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Kind of disappointed I don't see my mom on the participants list. She must have not gotten the late warning. But Verizon Media Platform is part of the Verizon Media Group underneath Verizon. So we are essentially the backbone infrastructure that powers OTT streaming services globally. We power whether they're using our full streaming product or they're using our delivery network solely. They are delivering experiences to end users across the globe. And obviously with everybody at home right now, that's a big business. We also power a lot of gaming companies, software downloads, and social media sites. So a lot of the things that have been impacted by COVID and what we're currently seeing today are the businesses we power outside of obviously Verizon and big enterprise companies globally.
So yeah, as we saw this morning reported, game playing has been at a record, particularly now. Apparently people are tired of watching TV and have started turning their attention to gaming, but we're going to stick with streaming and gaming. And one of the things you didn't mention, Jason, which I think is really important for people to understand, is that one of the things that Verizon Media specializes in is live. So let's start there. Must have been a big impact with the loss of sports for your live business, right?
Yeah, it sucked. It is, it's just, no business can prepare for something just being cut off one day and it's over. But what's interesting is for us, just so people have some context of how big the live business is for us. We power a lot of live OTT services, a lot of live sporting events, and we also have a managed service that helps our customers broadcast those events over the internet. So, we've done hundreds of thousands of live events for customers that use our platform. We've handled over 100 live events at any given time. Our team has helped produce 100 live events at one time, over 300 a day. So, our team is used to it. It's a big business for us. But what's really interesting in this time is even though we've lost the traffic that comes from powering these live events using our platform, that we've more than made up for that from our customers that are delivering, you know, the non-one-off live events, their live linear feeds and their VOD to end users, you know, around the country and around the globe. And that growth and that and software downloads and things has made up for the, you know, initial downtick in live events as we currently have it. Obviously, we're all excited. Just before this, I was watching the Bundesliga on my iPad, you know, and we're all excited for as more and more sports leagues, you know, globally are starting to come back without audiences to really kind of see what that does to the streaming and OTT numbers globally as well.
Right. It looks like things are slowly coming back there with the sports. But as you said, it's not like your network has been laying idle. We've seen as much as a 35% bump in the use of SVOD services. So am I right in saying that VOD is basically filled in where the live streams were before?
Yeah, definitely. VOD and, like I said, live linear news is really important right now. We're seeing a big uptick in that kind of stuff. Just so you know, we've seen just since January, we've seen a 20% growth in traffic on our network since January, and that's 50% year over year than what we saw last year. So obviously, people are at home. That's where they're getting their content, whether it's news or education or even, you know, whatever type of sports they can kind of get online, whether it's watching old games or watching Michael Jordan documentaries. People are able to, you know, get their fix. And I think the interesting thing is that the network just keeps going, right? And we've been able to power our customers' businesses, make sure they meet the demands of their audiences, and, you know, pretty much not even skip a beat, which is a great relief, obviously, to everyone at the media platform.
Yeah. So that is one of the things that I think has really amazed me. You know, when we headed into this thing and the lockdown orders came down, I was expecting an enormous spike, and of course there was. But along with that, I was expecting there to be lots of problems that, you know, there'll be quite a few services that go down, that we have major broadband problems, that, you know, I really was expecting there to be a lot more problems than there have been. And to my knowledge, there's been no major outage in the network. So tell how is that? How were you able to ride through without basically any problems?
Well, I think one of the most important business decisions that a delivery network can make is being proactive, right? Is planning, is looking at traffic patterns historically and understanding as more and more people, you know, shift their business online, shift their viewing habits online. You know, what is that going to do to your network, and where are the regions that are hot? Where are the regions that are growing the fastest? And just plan. So some good statistics there, again, to give everybody kind of scope is, you know, we've seen growth in video, you know, from about 2016, there was about a 23% growth in video overall, you know, being delivered over the top. 2017, that was about 27%. 2018 was about 30. 2019 was about 32%. So we looked at the business of streaming as a whole because we do focus on delivering media. We decided we want to make sure our network is built for the world's toughest thing to deliver, and then, you know, be able to optimize it for everything else behind that. So in seeing that, we took the steps forward as a business to invest in that, and globally. So, you know, if you look at last year alone, where video grew about 32%, we grew our network 111%. So we've just been really proactive to make sure that our network had the headroom to be able to handle any spike. And, you know, it's difficult, but even now in this COVID era, we are able to launch new points of presence globally in specific regions that needed it. We're able to optimize our network. And I would say that's the critical thing is just us as a business and any good delivery network. The other ones that you see out there as well that are competing in the same space as us and doing just as good of a job is being proactive versus being reactive. And I think what you've seen in the past when there's been issues in the past, not maybe the last 1 or 2 years, but before that was, businesses were built for the web, not necessarily built to handle the streaming of these audiences that are coming over. And, they were very reactive about, okay, how do we upgrade our network? Where do we do all this stuff? And I think that's the biggest, difference maker is just having that proactive approach.
Right. And so, one of the things that as a testament to the fact that you sort of, I guess, overbuilt the network, or at least built plenty of headroom, is that this year you handled a lot of the streaming tasks for the Super Bowl, and I can't think of anything tougher. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what you did to prepare for that, because that really should help us get an idea of how prepared you were for this peak here in lockdown.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a great, in this business, it's a badge of honor to be chosen to work with the
Sure
broadcaster who's delivering the Super Bowl. So, and it's something we worked on, well beyond a year working with Fox on this. And we were lucky enough to be the sole provider of the 4K delivery for the Super Bowl, which was great. So just to give you a great example, going back to those numbers I just talked about. So in 2019, we grew our network 111%. And a lot of that was infrastructure build out, optimizations made to be able to handle the Super Bowl, especially within the North America footprint, which Fox had. And the year before it was at 67%. So you can see that huge difference in the amount of money in the infrastructure that we put in to build out our network, to make sure we had the space to prepare for audiences that broadcasters expected for the Super Bowl. And one of the things I think most people don't realize, unless you're in the business, unless you're working for, the Akamais and Fastleys of the world, is that, it's not just like someone chooses you and the next day you're delivering the Super Bowl. This is a year-long process of working with the customer to not only understand how are they going to architect their infrastructure for the Super Bowl, how much of that traffic is going to go on your network, but exactly where do they expect that traffic to go, and how big of an audience do they expect to have. And you have to make sure that your network not only has the ability to handle that, but let's not forget the day the Super Bowl was going on, it wasn't like all the other businesses that use our platform shut down. They were also open for business. So you have to be prepared to not only, meet the demands of the one customer for that one event for those few hours, but you have to also make sure it doesn't impact any of the other customers throughout the year. So it was a year-long process, meeting, if not weekly, daily with the customer to understand all those needs. And then, we had to have proof points. We had to test our network to be able to handle the audiences they expected to be there, and also keep the headroom. So, we were able to test our network and know through our streaming product, through delivery, we would be able to handle 10 million plus concurrent users, which, when you're talking one to many, might not be that big of a deal. But when you're talking about the way that you handle the Super Bowl, where it's, it's not one to one many, it's one to one, where they can serve dynamic ads and use blackouts and other things to make sure that they're managing their sports rights appropriately, they're delivering their advertisers business needs appropriately. It gets much, much more difficult to handle something like the Super Bowl.
Right. And one of the things you mentioned there was sort of in passing, was that you did the 4K streams. One thing I wanted to ask you about was how is that being encoded? Are you using the new codec? Like, are you using HEVC for that? Let's talk a little bit about the 4K for a minute. Was that was HDR as well?
It was HDR.
High dynamic range?
Yes. Yeah. And it was UHD HDR stream. And we were able to do a lot of optimizations on the network to make sure that the content was at the edge. One of the problems, especially with delivering the Super Bowl, is, when you're talking about 4K, is obviously the video chunks are much larger. And you want to make sure that those video chunks are at the edge in cache, ready for end users, almost before their video player even requests it. So otherwise, they'll never see the 4K. So, we had to have optimizations throughout the whole network. So it wasn't even just what codecs were being used to do the encoding and to deliver it, is how do we optimize those chunks once they're in the network to make sure that they get to every end user, in this case, North America, to make sure that they're able to even take advantage of those chunks being available.
Right. So, and are you allowed to say roughly how many people we saw using the 4K streams?
I don't have that number actually, but
okay.
Off the top of my head, but I do know that Fox did. I believe they published that. So, maybe it's something we can send the link out.
I'll dig it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things, of course, that's big in the Super Bowl is advertising. And I have to say, I think one of the things that has benefited most from people staying at home is a lot of people are discovering ad-supported television, and in particular, some of the ad-supported linear streamers out there. Let's talk about ad-supported a little bit. It's a bit of a conundrum with ad-supported content during this season, because we've seen advertisers pull back advertising. So CPM rates have fallen, but at the same time, the amount of consumption has gone up. So we're seeing people like Roku, for example, the Roku channel, seeing things saying that they're actually making more revenue per unit, even with lower rates. Tell me what you're seeing with your customers and in your network.
Yeah, so I think, like, from our customers' perspective, like I said, the VOD traffic is actually a huge uptick for us. I couldn't get into specifically what their advertising numbers are looking like, but I can tell you, like, from our Verizon Media ad platform side of the business, I think they initially saw a downtick in percentage of exactly the same things you talked about. But in the most recent weeks, they've actually started to see, it start to get back to normal.
Rebound.
Rebound, because I think, people are getting used to this being the new normal. It's kind of funny. You would almost think CPMs would go higher when you have a captive audience at home and you're able to target them directly. But obviously, businesses are pulling back their money because they didn't know how long is this going to last, what the outcome is for their business. And obviously, we've seen a lot of businesses declare bankruptcy and stuff like that. So it is an interesting case now where I think you're seeing, and if you're listening and you're watching, you're seeing a lot more sponsorships, a lot more like businesses that are, a lot more comfortable in this era, knowing that their business is going to be sustained through this pandemic, being able to invest their money smartly and target very specific types of media that they want, as opposed to trying to sell the whole bunch of different audiences, I think is one of the major changes that I've seen just as a consumer on the business. When I'm watching things, I'm seeing, the same sort of businesses, deliver their commercials to me directly.
So I was wondering, have you seen has this been a big win for programmatic selling of advertising, or is it still mostly direct selling?
Yeah, I would think it's still mostly direct selling is what we're seeing. We launched initially, just coincidentally, one of our big things for the NAB season was we launched a new product called Smart Play Pre-Bid, which is essentially the same thing as header bidding on the web, but for video. So it allows our customers, when they're making their direct calls through our server-side ad insertion, when they're making it to the Freewheels and Googles of the world, we're also able to use the foundation of the pre-bid framework to send it out for programmatic at the same time. So when their ad servers are, asking for, okay, what programmatic inventory do I have? It's actually already there at the same time that the call is made to them. And, we see that being a value for our customers, because traditionally in the waterfall, you're going to time out. Things aren't going to be ready. Ads aren't going to be available. So now, the next few months for us, as we launch that, and as our ad platform side launched the ad side of it called OTT Smart Auction, the two pieces connect in the middle. What's going to be interesting is it a case now where the programmatic ads are actually there at a high enough CPM where premium video customers are going to be willing to accept those ads into their streams? Or is it going to be continue on a little bit of what we've heard from our customers, which are more of the higher end premium broadcasters? Are they going to say the brand safety, the cost associated with the programmatic is still not where we want it to be from a floor perspective, and we're not willing yet to say that OTT programmatic ads are going to go for $5 as opposed to $10, right? So and that's the big question no one's ever known is there really does that demand exist to fill the customer's inventory is the big question that we'll see over the next few months as customers start to use more and more programmatic things that are specifically built and targeted for the media and the OTT space.
Right, and that of course is one of the big advantages of having this direct one-to-one connection with the viewer, right? Now, I think it might be worthwhile, Jason. Let's just spend a moment talking about. You sort of glossed over this, and I think some of the people on the call may not understand exactly why there is a scale issue with inserting ads, targeted ads in on-demand streams or in direct streams. As you've seen, could you just talk us through why is there a scale issue?
Sure. Yeah. When you do it the way we do it, and you know, that's what I can talk. That's what I can talk about.
Right.
The best.
It's server side, and server side is broadly, I think, adopted by most people.
Yeah.
Now, so
yeah, but we also, because we are also generating the manifest for every user. You know, and for those listening that aren't aware of what a manifest is, it's essentially just a text file that's got a list of instructions for the video player on where to grab the video pieces and how to put them together for the end users so they get a great experience. But when you're doing that for every user, and you're talking about it on live and events that have larger scale audiences, you have to have the infrastructure in the cloud to be able to make those decisions in real time for that end user. You know, whether it is just, you know, what quality of video am I sending back? Are they in the right region to get this video? Is it blacked out? But then you start talking about ads, and every single user is being dynamically targeted, slightly different ads. You know, we're not at the point of the world where we all thought we would be, that every single user is getting completely different, you know, ad inventory than anybody else. But you know, they're going to be in different orders that, you know, might be slightly different, but each person's getting that different experience, and you have to have the infrastructure to manage that. And I think a great number I heard from our product team is that that could mean on a big scale event that we're making hundreds of thousands of decisions per second on a live event. If everybody goes to a commercial at the exact same time, you know, we have to make decisions on what those commercials are and how to handle it, how to deliver it, and all that kind of stuff. So the back end to have that built and scalable for every user is extremely complicated. And it's something that, you know, when we were founded, the company that became Verizon Media Platform, we were founded, this was one of our core things that we really worked on before we even like kind of came out in the public, and we worked with a broadcaster to make sure we got it right, because we knew how important that was to the future of delivery. So we've been working on that for the past 10 years, constantly optimizing, constantly tweaking, constantly handling the scale to build out the biggest audiences. And, you know, we had plenty of bumps across over the road, whether it was, you know, you're making too many calls per second where you essentially are DDoSing yourself, and what do you do when a call fails, and all these kind of things. So you have to work out every single little nuance from the positive experiences to the negative experiences to make sure that the infrastructure that are powering all of those knows to stay standing and not fall down. And I think people, you know, when you're watching at home, I know my mom joked before, but, you know, she has no idea the complexity that goes into it. And very few of us in this very incestuous business that we live in, you know, understands the complexity that goes into it. Everyone just expects, hey man, expects it to work. And it is incredibly complicated.
So it's very clear. So now it's pretty clear to me why pre-bidding helps that, because now I can actually have the ads ready to go before the ad break comes along. So as soon as I hit that ad break, I already know I don't have to go out and ask the ad servers what ad I need and who's going to fill it. That's already done. I can just go grab the ad and fill it.
A little bit. It's not already done for every user. So what it does do is, though, once that ad break is hit, it's not waiting for that ad call to go to let's say Freewheel, and then go and then fill the direct sold, and then go make the programmatic call. So it's going to Freewheel, making the programmatic call at the same time, and then telling Freewheel, okay, here's all the programmatic stuff. So by the time it gets there, it is already. And when you're talking about, you know, massive scale of audience, obviously, you know, every millisecond helps. And I was joking with some guys internally the other day, again, you know, when people are trying to understand the complexity of this, is that when we're talking in milliseconds. We're optimizing ads in milliseconds. We're optimizing delivery in milliseconds. And it's funny how milliseconds make such a massive impact on an end user's experience, right?
Yeah.
if we said, if a customer of ours said, time out the programmatic waterfall after 10 milliseconds, right? Or let's say 100 milliseconds. And we get to 100 milliseconds and we haven't gotten an ad back, that ad's going unfilled. So that hurts our customer's business. And it also hurts the end user's experience because now they're going to see a slate. And now they're going to complain that, oh, you know, it was an ad and then it went to a slate, right? And our goal as a business, and the goal of all the other companies that are, you know, powering similar businesses to ours, is to make sure customers never see slate, is to make sure that the experience that customers getting now on their smart, you know, their smart TV through their OTT application or on their mobile phone is as good, if not better, because there's more of it available in 4K than what they can get through their cable company. And you know, that's the goal we've set for ourselves, and that's the goal that we try to deliver for our customers on a daily basis.
Very good. So now, best will in the world. You know, Verizon Media is a great CDN, of course, but some people are using other CDNs, and they're doing that for a variety of reasons, right? So can you just walk through why, you know, some of the reasons why somebody might use a different CDN, and how to go about managing multiple CDNs? This is actually a pretty difficult problem, and a lot of bigger producers are facing this right now, aren't they?
Yeah, it's funny. I think, you know, coming from us, we spent a long time saying, no, our CDN's the best. It's built for media. And obviously we still believe it's the best CDN, but we're also aware, and I think most customers need to be aware, whether they use us or they use someone else, primarily is you need to manage your business continuity. It goes to what I said way earlier, proactive versus reactive, right? The worst problem you can have is you have one vendor for a content delivery network and something happens, something catastrophic happens, and then you have to be reactive to getting up and running on another CDN to get your audience back. The second it goes down, you're done. Your audience is lost. Yes, there might be people there that hit refresh and, you know, want to come back because they're diehard of whatever they were watching, but a majority of people are just going to give up if it's not really instantaneous switching. So, you know, we really feel that content owners need to be proactive, right? And if this is part of their plan, whether it's just to keep their service up and running and to have, you know, a fallback scenario for worst case scenario, you should have that. You should have that in place, and you should make sure that you're managing that properly. But on the flip side, if it's about quality, which is what we really believe in, right? Then it's not cost effective for a company like ours. It's very costly to build a POP for our delivery network, right? It's thousands of dollars and you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars to build it out right, connect it, make sure traffic goes through it properly. And there might be regions in the world where we just don't have a ton of customers delivering traffic. But that doesn't mean that we don't have customers delivering traffic, nor does it mean that the Akamai's, the Fastly's, the, you know, CloudFronts have the same exact problems, right? There are areas in the world where they might just not have infrastructure, but they do have people that want to get that content. And it's important to have a backbone, a decisioning system that you can integrate into your infrastructure or with your vendors to make sure that the end user is always being delivered the highest quality at any given time. And that does mean from time to time, the highest quality for one specific end user may be on another network. And you're going to want to make sure that that end user gets that experience that they deserve by being loyal to you and your brand and watching whatever it is you're watching. And you should be able to manage that and make sure that you have that taken care of, because, you know, keeping an audience is just as hard as getting an audience, and you want to make sure that you have that done. So internally on our side, we actually took the step about 2 years ago to start developing a product to be able to do that for our customers. So whether our customers have relationships with other content delivery networks and they want to run it through us and say, hey, we want you know, we're using our own metrics and we're going to shift traffic, or we have customers that maybe don't have the relationships with other vendors. We have actually wholesale relationships with other networks, and we're able to use our own infrastructure and our own stream routing mechanisms to be able to deliver based on whether it's performance, price, you know, bandwidth, time of day, whatever our customers want to be able to manage that on, we offer them the ability to do that.
But how can you tell the performance, the best one to pick? How do you know?
That's a great.
Who's performing the best?
Yeah, it's always us. No, I'm just kidding. In fact, that would be the worst thing we could do is say it's always us, right? But we actually have a unique, we sit in a unique world where we are at Verizon Media. So there's a ton you can tell from the server side, right? You can tell how networks are reacting and stuff. But if you're not delivering over that network and you're not getting metrics back to your server side, how do you know? So there's two ways. So one is when we're talking about our product, we enable our customers to deliver metrics back to us so we can optimize based on what they're seeing as far as network conditions. But the second one, which is really unique to where we sit. So like I said earlier, we sit within the Verizon Media umbrella of Verizon. And the Verizon Media umbrella owns Yahoo and AOL. It's turned 35 today, by the way, AOL. So, and the interesting thing is we actually have video players globally. So we have video players that are delivering traffic and getting information globally, and we're able to pull that data back in, and that feeds into our stream routing product to be able to help our customers optimize their delivery based on what we're seeing globally through traffic that's not even being delivered by them, or might not even be delivered over our network, but is out there in the internet itself.
Very good, very good. So I just want to remind everybody, keep those questions coming. I will get to them certainly at the end. We're getting towards the end of our time. So if you have a question, you want to know something about CDNs, you've got the right man to ask those questions of, so put those in. Let's think forward a little bit, Jason. So we talked about the Super Bowl earlier. So I've got a couple of questions here about the future. One, when are we going to get to a position where you think we'll be comfortably handling Super Bowl-sized audiences? And just for reference, about 100 million people tuned into the Super Bowl last time. So when do you think we're going to get there, or are we already there?
Yeah, so it's a trick question because I think it's relying on two things, right? Number one is I think our network could handle, again, with a smart multi-network plan, I think you can handle audiences that are, that big. The problem is everyone always loves to talk about handling the Super Bowl, but the audiences that stream the Super Bowl are nowhere near the 100 million that the number that we see from a broadcast audience. So there's still a long, long way to go, which works in our favor to actually a full shift of people really shutting off cable, shutting off over the air, and watching things on OTT. And that shift actually has worked, like I said, it's worked in the favor of everyone in this industry, from the broadcasters to the service providers to the vendors, because it has allowed us to take those, to watch the incremental growth of video traffic. And like I said, be proactive and know, okay, we can see a 30%, or 5 to 10% or a 30% jump in audience size year over year. And we can manage that year over year. It's never going to be a boom, everyone's moving to OTT and that's it. So that has worked to our advantage. I think networks do a great job all the time of optimizing delivery and making sure they can deliver these things. They're getting smarter and smarter about how they do it. They're getting smarter and smarter about traffic patterns and using data and machine learning and AI to understand how to shape traffic throughout their networks. And that's, that stuff is all going on now as the audiences are still relatively small in comparison to the broadcast side audiences. Yep. Again, which works to everyone's favor in the long run because it will enable us to grow our networks with the audiences as they grow and move towards a fully streaming service as we move forward.
So this is my last question, and then we'll get into the audience Q&A. So we've seen a big bump in the usage of online services, online television services. What do you see going forward? So you've seen an unusually high number of users in the first quarter. Has this caused you to bring forward your plans to expand because you're expecting to see a sustained, like a sort of stepwise progress in the use? So, a lot more people have come, and now that maybe will cause a lot more people to come. How are you thinking about things?
Yeah, I think our business is thinking about it the same way we kind of always have, again, being proactive, right? And we've always designed our network to always keep a certain amount of headroom on our network, never take on enough clients that would actually put at risk any one of our pops or our bandwidth in general. And we're talking over 105 terabits per second, right? That's our network capacity and today. And we always make sure that we have a customer base that falls below that network capacity. We always have the headroom to manage that spike at any given time. So I think for us, it really is a wait and see. Like I said, we've seen a massive shift. The real question is when everything kind of comes back to what the normal was, where does that level out, right? Are we going to stay on a consistent kind of where we are now? Or when live sports starts coming back, are we going to start to see an uptick much higher, right? Is VOD and gaming and all those things that kind of took over the fact that we could no longer watch live sports, are those things going to still stay as active as they currently are as live sports comes on? So I think for us as a business is kind of hold the course, stay what we've been doing, keep our network plans as they are, and then, be smarter on our development side inside the engineering on how we're optimizing, the caching and how we're optimizing everything that we need to optimize within the network to really make sure that we're taking the most advantage of the infrastructure we already have built. We already kind of have a plan in place at Verizon Media over the course of the next 5 to 10 years is to really change, to take advantage of the infrastructure we have out there, adding compute capabilities and really kind of shift on, does that mean that we become a compute network with a software stack that is doing the delivery part, right? How are we making that transition to the next generation video stack, the next generation delivery stack based on the infrastructure that's already out there is one of the kind of really cool projects we have going on internally. So I think from an infrastructure side, we're kind of, like I said, staying where we are, but internally developing ways to really make sure that we're optimizing all the infrastructure that's out there.
Very good. Okay, so let's put the poll up, and then we're going to deal with some of the Q&A questions. So Laura, can we have there we go. There's the audience poll. So please get busy answering those questions while we talk through questions that I've seen in the Q&A window. And the first one I want to address is from Michael Holton. Thank you, Michael. A couple of really interesting questions you've asked. The one I want to start with, though, you sort of touched on this, and Michael's asked, it's a very technical question, but I think it'd be very interesting to hear where you see AI and ML going. He says, when will we see more AI, ML, and GPU computing at the edge versus server farms deep in the network owned by Amazon, Microsoft, NVIDIA, etc., the big cloud providers? What is Verizon doing to own this new paradigm? Wow, he's looking for you to own the paradigm. So talk about AI, ML, and GPU computing and how that can help.
Yeah. All right. So kind of goes to my last answer, right? One of the really interesting facts, especially when you're talking about a delivery network and you're talking about the architecture and the thousands of servers that are out there globally in points of presence, I think something like 80% of the compute power on those servers when they're running as delivery servers on a content delivery network goes unused. So a big plan of ours is to productize the use of that. We're currently in beta now. We have some big announcements coming out in the next few weeks and months around major customers that we've been working with on doing exactly that. We are transforming our edge network to become a compute network. And we're really, there's a lot of companies out there that are already doing that. You've seen other CDNs change their name to edge networks as opposed to delivery networks. But one of the unique things where we sit, again, being part of the Verizon family is, Verizon itself, the wireless side, is working on the MEC, right? Working on the multi-edge compute all the way out in the cell towers. And, we believe that we can sit right behind that. Our network can sit right behind that when you're talking about latency. And we believe there's a certain subset of customers that need to be in the MEC 100% when you're talking about smart cars and remote surgery and things like that need instantaneous, lowest latency possible. But there's a lot of businesses that will be able to do things in our edge where they need to be really close to their audience and their content owners, but they don't necessarily have to, their audiences and their consumers, but they don't necessarily have to be all the way out in a cell tower. because those mechs are not going to be as powerful as our edges are going to be. So we're going to be able to do a lot of stuff when you're talking about image optimization, server-side ad insertion at the edge, real-time streaming. There's a lot of things we're currently working on that's going to be really exciting. And we're working on, a containerized version, containerized product that allows you to kind of shift based on your business needs where you want to be, whether cloud, far edge, or near edge.
Very good. Okay, so we'll do one more quick question. So Edward Bruno, he asks a very specific question, but I want to generalize it. He's asking, he says, I have a 4K channel called Relax TV. How can I monetize this content on Verizon streaming? So let's generalize that sort of. Talk about 4K, state of 4K, how you're handling that right now and what you think the opportunity is there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton of opportunity for 4K. I think people are clamoring for it. I think most people, again, it's really funny. It's one of those things, again, insiders. If you put a friend of mine up the street that's not in the business and sat in front of, he would think what he's watching on his TV is 4K, right? He would think, they don't understand the difference between, the different picture qualities. But I guess Relax TV, I would assume it's meditation. So you want it to be as beautiful as possible. If you've got the content, getting it out there in 4K today is not that difficult, right? You can find a vendor that has the encoding. You can get them the feed, or if it's a bunch of VOD assets that you're stitching together to make a linear feed, it's relatively easy to get the content in there. When you talk about monetization, there's different sides to that as well. To get ads into a feed is fairly easy as well. The question then comes, who's feeding the ads into those feeds, right? What kind of relationships do you have as a business to either direct sell ads that can go into there, get sponsorships that can go into there, or like Colin and I were talking about before, is there programmatic inventory out there that you would feel comfortable with being sold into your content, right? So there's a lot, there's brand safety issues. You've got to make sure it fits the themes of your business and that it's the right type of stuff. And, when you're direct selling ads, 4K ads are probably easier to come by, right? A major broadcaster can tell their content owner and their advertisers, hey, we need 4K versions of their ads. When you're talking about programmatic, I would assume that 4K demand probably doesn't exist very often. So you're also going to run into the issue of, I've got this beautiful 4K stream, but I don't have ads in 4K. Now, good streaming platforms are going to make sure that to the audience, it's not a disruptive experience.
As possible. Yeah.
Right. But that would be a problem. And it could potentially be a big one. But who is buying your inventory is the biggest question for a content owner, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to monetizing.
All right, so let's take a quick look at the audience poll answers. So if we can close the poll, and then can we take a look at the answers? Okay, so I asked, when do you think the internet will be able to handle a live Super Bowl sized audience? And wow, a third of people think we can do it today. And most people seem to think 1 to 2 years is an appropriate level. I tell you what, Jason, the acceleration in cord cutting, you may have to get ready for a couple of years. It's really accelerating now, right? Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see. I mean, I hope these are all internal employees that voted that we could do it today, right?
Yeah, the optimists.
Yeah, exactly.
Which quality problem is the most irritating to viewers? Well, hands down, it is buffering. I'm really surprised not a single person picked slow start times. So maybe start times are getting better. Maybe we're able to start streams faster.
I think that again is like an internal thing. Like I think most people at home don't know what a slow start time is if they're not in the business, right? Like, yes, obviously if we're talking 10s and 20s of seconds, you got problems. But I think it's the buffering. It's the pausing once it's stopped is the most frustrating thing. If we go back to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, it's the anticipation is killer, right? It's waiting for it to start again or knowing if it's ever going to start again is the worst experience you could possibly get.
You bet. And the last question, which is most important in picking a CDN for a video service? And I get to win my bet with Jason because I said I thought it would be reputation. And it is indeed reputation.
Yeah,
but you had an interesting comment.
Yes, the caveat was, I said, of course it's reputation until they're a customer, and then it's all about price. Your reputation doesn't matter at that point.
Very good. Well, Jason, I'm afraid we didn't get to nearly all of the questions that were asked, and perhaps what I'll do is I'll dump those and get those over to you, and if you want to reach out, you can do that. But otherwise, I think we're going to hand it back to Ned. Ned, fascinating conversation again today.
Yeah, terrific conversation, Colin and Jason. Really appreciate you guys enlightening us on what's going in this world of streaming tech. Tomorrow's show, folks, is our business of games, and we have John Linden. John is CEO of Mythical Games, which raised $19 million back in November to focus on games that focus on the blockchain. So join us tomorrow at noon, and everybody stay safe. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks again, Colin. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks for having me.